Hi there everyone, Jack here again on the Vinyl Void. So UK folk, in my younger years I was not interested in that at all. For me, my picture of UK folk was old men with woolly jumpers, scraggly beards, smoking pipes with ruddy red cheeks, basically farmers with guitars, bits of straw hanging out their mouth. It was not cool. It wasn't like their counterparts from across the pond, the likes of Dylan, Woody Guthrie, James Taylor, Joni Mitchell, Cohen, Neil Young. These guys seemed cool. UK folk did not seem cool. It kind of seemed embarrassing, but that's because I did not know where to dig. Now, UK folk is fantastic. There's so many great albums out there. You just need to know where to dig, and I hope this video highlights some of the better UK folk acts. Some of it's a bit more progressive. There's different names for the genre, like acid folk, psychedelic folk, freak folk. So we'll try and have a look at some of these different albums. I hope you find something that you like the sound of, maybe something that you've not heard before. But like I said, there's lots to discover. You just really need to dig in and look for that gold. So, on with the show. First up then, a cult classic from 1971. This is Comus with their debut album called First Utterance. And this is really strange stuff. This came out on the Dawn label. The band were formed in '67. They took a while to find a label. They took a while to find a home because it is very, very strange music. I suppose best described as progressive folk, maybe psychedelic folk. But, you know, there's a lot of themes of kind of pagan themes and controversial themes for the time. You know, they sing songs about sacrifice, the loss of innocence, rape, even necrophilia. So, yeah, the lyrics, if you delve into them, are not for the faint-hearted, though either is the music. So they came out of Kent, like I said, in '67. They were a six-piece band, mainly formed by Glenn Goring and Roger Wooten, who was the principal songwriter. And they came out of, I think, was it Kent Art School? But Glenn Goring did the artwork and the inside of the gatefold. Roger Wooten did this fantastic pen and ink artwork on the cover. And yeah, this really sums up the kind of sound of the album, I think, this artwork. It's, like I said, a really strange sound with loads of like odd percussion. Some of the songs have got like a kind of bit of a crazy vocal from Roger Wooten. And then you've got these more haunting songs with a female vocalist Bobby Watson, who plays like a number of percussive instruments. But this is wholly acoustic mainly. We've got 6 and 12 string acoustic, some electric guitar, some slide, hand claps, vocals, Fender bass, flutes, oboes. Yeah, there's all sorts. Really crazy sounding violin. But yeah, this is very inspirational and influential album that it's become, and it's the metal genre that it really influenced. So Opeth are big fans, and it's almost like death metal played on acoustic guitars. At the time, they weren't well received. One critic, I think it was a critic for Melody Maker, described Comus's vocals as sounding like Mark Bolan being squashed to death, but people didn't get them at the time. David Bowie did. David Bowie championed them. He was a big fan. Comus themselves, they were influenced by, as you would expect, the first Velvet Underground album. They were also influenced by the amazing acoustic finger-picking guitar work of John Renbourn and Bert Jansch, as well as the incredible string band. But yeah, this is really odd stuff. If you want something a bit different, have a look out for Comus's debut. They did do another album in '74. I can't remember the title of it, which is, yeah, it's not as good as this. It's not as weird as this, but yeah, this is definitely something different. And like I said, this music on vinyl reissue is pretty good. The only thing I would complain about is this is a little bit pixelated and the inside a little bit blurry, but the actual music itself, the pressing's really good, and you would be hard pushed to find an original on this because it's pretty rare. Another debut then, this time from 1969. This is Dr. Strangely Strange with Kip of the Sirens. And yeah, another great album. Very strange as well, with a more hippie, kind of pastoral vibe than the creepy, sinister vibes of Comus. But nonetheless, no less weird. It's probably less progressive, this, more psychedelic. See, like I said, they look like real hippies on the front cover. So Dr. Strangely Strange were a band out of Dublin in Ireland, and this is produced by the legendary producer Joe Boyd on his, I think it was on his Witch Seasons production label. Yeah, loads of great instruments on here, just having a look at it. There's mandolin, there is pipe organ, there's whistles, fiddles, and different percussion, glockenspiel. Yeah, more psychedelic. I love that opening track. Strangely strange, but oddly normal. It's got like kind of strange, kind of odd vocal stylings and little voices that come out of nowhere. But yeah, a really cool bit of acoustic psych. Next then, we have another one from 1969. This is the Pentangle with their third album, Basket of Light, that appeared on the legendary UK folk label Transatlantic. This is fantastic stuff. Maybe less psychedelic than Kip of the Serenes, more progressive. We get a mix of classical, bit of blues in there, some jazz, obviously folk. But you know, that comes from those two fantastic guitarists that the Pentangle had. You had Bert Jansch, the absolutely brilliant Glaswegian acoustic guitar player. You know, Neil Young famously called him the Jimi Hendrix of the acoustic guitar. Jimmy Page himself was a massive fan of Bert Jansch. You've also got John Renbourn playing on this as well, who's really good. He plays sitar, I believe, on the second track, Once I Had a Sweetheart, which is really, really cool as well. You've got some glockenspiel on there. Sounds more of a kind of progressive song. That opening track is really good. Light Flight. I also love the female vocals on here from Jackie McShee. Yeah, it's just a really cool album. I like that front cover as well. This was the Pentangle playing at the Royal Albert Hall on the front cover. Just give you a quick look at the Transatlantic label. Like I said, obviously a very famous UK folk label. Another cult classic next. This is Bright Phoebus from 1972 on Trailer Records. Now, I've shown this album a couple of times already, but in good conscience, I couldn't do a video on progressive or psychedelic or acid folk without showing this masterpiece. It's really, really good. This was recorded while the traditional folk band, the Wattersons, were on hiatus. They'd all taken a break, and Lal and Mike Watterson got back together when they'd been writing songs on their own. They come up with a few beauties, and as a result, they put out this album. I think that when they got together, it was when Mike Watterson, he was taking some time out as a painter. He was painting houses. The sun was beating down on him, and he had this melody, this idea for a lyric to do with Bright Phoebus shining down upon him, and that's when they got back together and started recording these songs. And to record the songs, they brought in a lot of kind of UK folk royalty at the time. They brought in the rhythm section of Fairport Convention, along with Richard Thomas, Martin McCarthy back on guitar as well, and they put this out. But it's really, really good. It's been described in the past as like the Sergeant Pepper's of UK folk. And it's got like a little bit of everything. Some of the tracks are quite bubblegum. So songs like Rubber Band or Magical Band are quite psychedelic. Then you've got more haunting UK folk like The Scarecrow or Fine Horseman, which are very kind of, almost have like a kind of haunting pagan type sound to them. The type of songs that you'd imagine appearing in the film The Wicker Man. They're kind of like some of the more haunting songs on the Comus album as well. But yeah, this is just really, really good album, and yeah, really happy to get a copy of it, because again, this is a rare one as well. I think only 1,000 copies were originally released. This is that Trailer label. And unfortunately for the Wattersons and for the world at large, there's been contractual disputes ongoing for decades regarding who owns the rights to this album. I think it was Domino put out a reissue a number of years, and it had to be recalled because of this ongoing dispute as to actually who owns the copyright and the rights to put out the album. So it's a shame, because this really, really does deserve a good reissue. But yeah, fantastic stuff. Bright Phoebus, Lal and Mike Watterson. Next then, a classic from 1969. This is the Fairport Convention with On Half Bricking. This was the third album on Island Records. This is really a folk rock masterpiece and a transitionary album for me for the Fairport Convention, both as a band and with their sound. Now, there's a number of cover versions on here. You've got $1 Million Bash by Dylan from Basement Tapes. You've got C2 Dois Partir, which is If You Got to Go, Go Now, another Dylan song. For some reason, they sing it in French. And you've also got Percy's Song, which was an unreleased Dylan song from the Times They Are A-Changin' sessions. Now, there's obviously a big American influence there, which I think on the next album, Legion Leaf, they moved away from. They became more acid, progressive sounding with a sound that was more aligned with traditional UK folk. Like I said, this has got that bit more of an American influence. The band changed as well round about this album. So on Percy's Song, you had the last vocalings from Ian Matthews, who went on to form Matthews Southern Comfort. He was the one that brought that American influence to the Fairport Convention. I think Sandy Denny wanted to steer them more in a traditional UK direction. But also, there was that horrific car crash that the band had just before this was released. And it was on the way back from a gig in Birmingham where their van was involved in a collision. And their drummer, who was only 19 at the time, Martin Lambie, died, as well as Richard Thompson's girlfriend died as well. I read a quite horrible thing where the bass player, Ashley Hutchins, says whenever he looks at this album now, he sees the clothes that he was wearing, this image on the back cover, and he said it was the same shirt and waistcoat that he wore on that night, and he said whenever he looks at that image now, he can still remember the bloodstains that appeared on his waistcoat. It's got a cool front cover as well, with Sandy Denny's mum and dad here outside their home, with the band in the background. Yeah, really cool on that Island label, produced again by Joe Boyd on his Witch Seasons production label. Pink rim Island. But yeah, I think as much as this is not as psychedelic or as progressive as Legion Leaf would be, it's got that really great song, A Sailor's Life, and while being the kind of traditional song that ends side one, it's the first song to feature Dave Swarbrick, who would become like a full-time member of the band on violin, and that's probably the starting of them sounding more progressive. He really stretches that traditional track out, and the violin on there is absolutely superb. But yeah, a great folk rock album, and definitely one worth seeking out if you've not heard it. We've got a little bit of an oddity next. This is Sandy Denny and the Strobes with the album. Can we call it an album? More of a compilation, all of our own work, and it was put out on the Hallmark label. Now, the reason it's a little bit of an oddity, a compilation, was Sandy Denny and the Strobes recorded this back in the late 60s and 67 in Copenhagen in Denmark, and no one picked up upon it. It wasn't released until 73 when Pickwick put it out in the States, and it was put out in the UK on this budget label, Hallmark. But yeah, it's really, really good. I love this. It's got some early ideas from Sandy Denny. It's got Who Knows Where the Time Goes, an early version of that. The definitive version ended up on Half Bricking, the Fairport Convention album that I just showed. But yeah, that early version of that. This is less traditional folk, more jangly psych folk. I think it's really, really good. It sounds very influenced by US folk. It sounds influenced by the likes of Tim Buckley, Love, artists like that. I'll just show you the label. Like I said, it's on that cheap Hallmark label, but nonetheless, it sounds absolutely brilliant. I think it's had a few different reissues since where it's been packaged up maybe differently, but I don't really care about the packaging. I think the music on here is absolutely brilliant. Love it. Next up then, we have the Natural Acoustic Band with their second album called Branching In. This one's from 1971. It's on RCA Victor on that orange label. But yeah, they were a band that were formed in Scotland, a three-piece made up of Christian Kojan, who's got these really interesting vocals. She was of Polish and Hungarian descent, I think. You had Tom Hoy, who's another principal songwriter, born in Glasgow, and Robin Thine, born in the northeast, I think. Was it Middlesbrough, Newcastle he was born in? But yeah, really interesting band, kind of psychedelic, acid psychedelic type sound. I really like this song, Road to the Sun. It's a beauty. It's got great flutes in there, but a lot of good acoustic guitar in the album, bongos, and like I said, Christian Kojan's vocals are quite unusual. The band only did a couple of albums, and then their vocalist, she ended up going and singing backing vocal and working with the Kinks and Mike Herron and a number of other people. The other two members of the band, they went and joined the UK folk band Magna Carta. So they were kind of short-lived, but this is a good album. I've not heard their first album yet, so I'd like to give that a listen as well, but this is really, really good. Next then, sticking with Scottish folk, we have JSD Band with Country of the Blind. This was their debut from 1971 on the Regal Zonophone label. Now, this is a little bit more traditional. A lot of the songs are traditional songs that have been arranged by the JSD Band. But there is some acid moments in there as well. There's good use of glockenspiel. You've got banjo, fiddle, obviously excellent acoustic guitar work, some cello work in there as well. Yeah, this is a good listen. It's a good cover of Don't Think Twice, It's Alright from Dylan on the start of side 2. I'll just show you that Regal Zonophone label. But yeah, another album that is not going to break the bank. You can pick this up quite cheap and a good listen as well. So to finish then, another psychedelic folk masterpiece, again coming out of Scotland. This is the Incredible String Band with their third album, The Hangman's Beautiful Daughter from 1968. This was put out on Elektra Records, and what an album this is. Often cited as one of the most influential folk psych albums of all time, and I definitely wouldn't disagree with that. A lot of people abbreviate the Incredible String Band to IBS. I don't really like to do that. IBS to me is irritable bowel syndrome. However, this album probably would give a lot of people irritable bowel syndrome because it is very eclectic. It's really, really weird. There's so many weird instruments thrown on here. Probably everything you can imagine, from glockenspiels to whistles to strange percussive instruments. So many strange and weird and wonderful stringed instruments on here. It's definitely not for everybody, but if you like your albums weird, your vocals even weirder, this could be the album for you. I think it's really good. It's another one that's been recorded by Joe Boyd's Witch Seasons Productions, and yeah, it's just really, really good stuff. I'll quickly show you. It's just on a red Elektra label. This is a reissue from '76. Yeah, I don't really think of this album in terms of individual songs. It's just kind of a whole weird mix of different sounds. I don't think I could tell you how one song goes. I just kind of listened to this one as a whole. But yeah, really, really good stuff. And if you like your music a bit weird and wonderful, you definitely can't go wrong with The Hangman's Beautiful Daughter by the Incredible String Band, not IBS. So there we have it, my selection of weird and wonderful out there UK folk albums. Now, most of these albums predominantly used acoustic instruments or traditional instruments, the odd little bit of electric guitar in there. However, that does not mean that they're any less out there or weird and wonderful than their psychedelic rock or progressive rock counterparts. I would defy anybody to find anything as strange as Comus's first utterance. Likewise, the weird and wonderful sounds of Incredible String Band, The Hangman's Beautiful Daughter. That's such a out there album as well. Now, if you enjoyed the video, please give us a like, and if you've got any suggestions, any tips for similar type of folk albums, please drop it in the comments. I absolutely love acid folk, psych folk, whatever you want to call it. I'm really, really into that type of stuff, and always on the lookout to hear new albums or new bands that I've not heard of. So please comment, I'll always reply. And likewise, if you want to subscribe for future videos, then please do so. And other than that, until the next time, see you later, bye for now.